In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes you should avoid as a filmmaker. What is the color grading and how color grading related to filmmaking? Well, color grading is generally extension of cinematography. And whenever you have a project, whether you shot it yourself or you're attempting to color grade, you should always put several thoughts into the place before you're going to approach your project. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that you should avoid as a filmmaker. And that brings us to mistake number 1. And number 1 mistake is white balancing every shot. And I see that all the times. People tend to white balance every time they point a camera different way. And this is the worst mistake you can do. In my experience, put the damn temperature, set it to 5600 Kelvin, let's say if you shoot during the day, and just leave it. Stop adjusting every time you point the camera, because what happens when you start color grading, now instead of just playing with exposure, now you also have to match your color temperature. And if you're doing complicated look, you're in disaster. A lot of times you cannot match shots, and it's just a really terrible practice to do. Mistake number 2 is having no clue what you're doing when you approach color grading. And I see this all the times in business too. People sit down, they know they have to do something with the color, but they have no idea what to do. So what they end up doing is just piling a bunch of different things, adjusting all kinds of stuff, temperature, contrast, you name it, like try to create weird looks, and in the end, it looks like crap. Have a plan before you're approaching color grading. Have your look set on exactly what you're doing. Whether it's an action movie or a documentary, have a little plan before you start color grading. Mistake number 3, doing too much. And just like previous mistakes, doing too much can really ruin your shot. So what happens when you have no plan, when you keep wrong white temperature, you keep doing too much work, and in the end, your shot either looks just too much things going on or nothing. It's very easy to ruin perfect shot by doing too much work to it. If the footage shot very well, if it looks good from the beginning, just stop, walk away. You don't have to be doing things just because you feel like it's your job as a colorist or a filmmaker to keep doing things to it. Sometimes in some of my projects, I just simply slap one of my LUTs on it. I adjust maybe shadows or exposure in general, and that's it. I don't do anything else. In some shots, I can have 20-30 notes to it. It all depends on the situation, but don't do more than you have to. Common mistake number 4 is try to copy others. When you try to copy others, you no longer have your own signature, your own look into your project. And believe me, it's absolutely okay by try to learn look from the other filmmakers or try to replicate the Hollywood movie. The idea is learn how to do it, but don't just copy it without realizing what's going on in those shots. Because whatever your project is, it may dictate a certain look, certain gamma, certain contrast, certain shadows. Everything has to be flowing like one. If you're just simply copying look from somebody else without thinking, your shot may look cool, but is it necessarily fits your film? It may not. So be sure not to copy others' look or work just without thinking. Always make sure it fits your project. And try to come up with your own look. That way you have a little bit signature going on behind your work. And finally, mistake number 5 is using gimmicks. Stop using gimmicks like plugins, flares, reflections. There's tons of plugins right now you can get for DaVinci Resolve, Premiere, After Effects. Some of them look cool, but stop using them if they don't fit your narrative. Again, it all comes down to the previous mistakes. If you're color grading your work, don't just sit there and think that you have to pile up as much as you can. That way your work has more value or the client going to pay you more, because they're not. Simplicity is the key in being a good colorist. Smaller is better. And this is completely true. Even in the big Hollywood movies, a lot of times the most simplest, natural color work is the best way to go. So don't use gimmicks just because you think it's gonna add a little bit value to your work. It will not. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and I'm gonna see you in the following episodes. Take care.